Қайырлы күн, құрметті ұстаздар мен оқушылар. Бүгін білім ғибадатын сіңіріп, біліммен білік әперген ел ағалармен жүздесу күні. Ақ халатын тағдырына байлаған, өмір теңіз толқынына мойымаған, талай уақыт арман еткен кәсібін жүрегімен жақсы көрген шайсамнан. Good afternoon, dear participants. We are glad to welcome all of you in our Student Council's Forum of Nazarbayev Intellectual Schools. Our honored guests are Г.Ламаты, who is the Vice President in charge of Business Development and Investment of Medical Partners Korea. Г.Йон, who is a representative of Medical Partners Korea, and Галымжан Асылбекович, the Chief Rheumatologist of the Republic, Doctor of Medical Science. We are delighted to see you.
Біз осында арнайлап келіп отырған мақсатымыз сіздермен жол өткен өмірдегі көргенімізді, білгенімізді, тергенімізді сіздермен бөлісу жөнінде осылай шешім қабылдап келіп отырмыз. Бөлісуге менің есімім Галымжан, фамилиям Тогизбаев, мен дәрігермін. Айтып өткендей ревматолог мамандығым бар. Президент деген азамат отыр. Бұл кісі биолог, өзі үлкен тәжірибесі бар. Медицина жағындағы микробиология жөнінде, осы биомедицина жағынан үлкен тәжірибесі бар. Және мистер Г.Ламаты деген кісі. Бұл кісі стратегия жағынан бизнесті қалай жасау керек, осы жөнінде еңбек жасап жүрген азаматтар. Бізде Қазақстанда МБК деген компания, МБК Қазақстан деген компанияны біз 2017-де құрдық. Бұның негізгі мақсаты Қазақстанға оңтүстік Кореяның технологияларын Қазақстанға алып келу болды.
Ендігі біздің студенттеріміз көбінесе шетелдегі университеттерге түскісі келеді, соның ішінде ол Корея университеттері. Корея елінде қандай мамандықтар қазір үлкен сұраныс тауып жатыр?
Korean side more recommend in our time typically more powerful in IT field, but in medical or science field is biological or molecular side. So, every university has a molecular field in department or research institution. But in Korean university or Korean institute, every year published in world journals, very top tiers. So, Korean science field is top tier in the world, I think. I recommend to science or life technologies or biology.
Қазіргі кезде оңтүстік Кореядағы өте тиімді оқу түрі ол молекула ғылымы болып жатыр. Сондықтан да бізге қонағымыз осы молекулалар ғылымы және биология ғылымын ұсынып отыр оқығандар.
Бұл молекулярлық диагностика деген сөз ғой. Айтып отырған молекулярлық диагностика деген ол биология. Ол молекулярлық диагностика ол жаңа инфекциялар тақырыбы. Сол молекулярлық диагностиканың маманы болу.
The question is related to Mr. Kim. They are more focused. Yeah, I'm not a medical person at all. Actually, I studied German language and literature, so.
Ендігі үшеуіңізге қоятын сұрағым, мектепте сіздердің сүйікті пәндеріңіз қандай болды, және ол болашақтағы мамандықтарыңызды таңдауда қандай әсер етті?
Биология саласында ғылымдарды таңдаған өте сүйікті болған. Өйткені биология ғылымы ол кеш
өмірімізге жақын нәрсе болғасын, өміріміздегі сол биологияны таңдадым.
жақсы, онда сұрақ қояйық. Қол көтеріп бір-бірден.
Can you please describe the situation in medicine of Kazakhstan, the first year when you have arrived and the right now, the difference?
Yeah, firstly, I arrived to Kazakhstan 7 to 8 years ago as a G2G cooperation business entity between Korean government, Korean Ministry of Health and Kazakh Ministry of Health. So I was mainly working on, first of all, the national health insurance system of Kazakhstan, and the second was training and education through the dispatching the medical personnel to Korea. At the time, I personally felt like most of doctors too much trust for most of doctors in Kazakhstan too much trust of their capability to treat patients by themselves, comparing that most of Korean medical doctors prefer to treat together at the same time. We say multidisciplinary treatment system. It means in here, usually the surgeon, very popular surgeon, decide how to treat a patient by themselves, by their own knowledge, and based on their own knowledge and clinical protocol, how they learned during like 1980s or 1990s. But in South Korea, at least as I experienced, at least 3, 4, 5 medical doctors decide how to treat this patient exactly. So it takes more time to diagnose and to decide how to treat the patient, but it shows like a good performance of treatment of the patient. So at the time, it was really, I can say like it was really tough environment to make the Kazakh doctors understand, the why we need this multidisciplinary treatment system in here. But nowadays, as we experience in Almaty city through the MBK clinic, which we established by ourselves, recently our doctors started to discuss about the treatment method, how to properly treat the specific patients. This is number one. I mean, before, the multidisciplinary treatment system was not in here when I arrived in here 7 to 8 years ago. But nowadays, at UMC, University Medical Center, based in Nur-Sultan, and most of presidential hospitals also encourage to treat one patient through 4 or 5 specialized medical doctors at the same time. The second was absolutely the Kazakh government recently adopted national health insurance system, as you know, right? So your parents exactly will know. Yeah, that it is. National health insurance system is mandatory to encourage like a health financing, to circulate the health financing between the government side and each the working level of hospitals in here. So it is big differences as an environment. Yeah.
He concluded very well, but I have to slightly add. Мына жаңағы інім дұрыс түсінді. Біріншіден жаңағы Квамбом кемнің айтып отырғаны, бізде бірінші келгенде осыдан 7-8 жыл бұрын бастадық қой. Ол мемлекетаралық қатынас жөнінде бастады. Кореяның медицинский холдинги деген бар, Korean Medical Holdings. Сонда менеджмент тим болып жұмыс істеп жүрді. Олар мен университетте істедім. Сол кезде біз танысқанбыз. Сол кезде айтқаны, ана дәрігер, Қазақстан дәрігері, өзіне көп, мысалы, өзі шешім қабылдайды, бір адам өзіне тым қатты сенеді. Дәрігер, мысалы, ол тым қатты сенген, мысалы, өз басы бірнеше дәрі жазып тастайды, иә, тағы басқа. Мына әріптестермен ақылдасу, болмаса әсіресе бұл хирургиялық салада қатты қажет қой. Сол хирургиялық салада өзі шешіп тастайды да өзіне. Кореяда 4-5 маманды, 4-5 маман, я 4-5 түрлі маман, олар бірігіп шешім қабылдайды. Осыны мен о баста солай мен сезгенмін. Қазір енді өзгерістер мен көріп жатырмын, ол жағынан жақсы өзгерістер бар. Екінші нәрсе ол жаңағы медицинское страхование дейді. Медицинское страхование мына ұлттық деңгейде ол қазір енді сол енді ол жағынан жақсы болашақта нәтиже болады деп ойлаймын. Қазір соңғы уақытта мемлекетте көп нәрселер жасалып жатыр, медицина қазір жаймен дамып келе жатыр. Сіздерге медицинаны таңдайын десеңдер, осында қызығушылық бар болатын болса, осы бағытта мына кісілерден сұрақ қоюыңызға болады.
So, can you describe the difference the first year when you have arrived to Kazakhstan and now, I mean the situation in medicine of Kazakhstan, the first year and right now?
Yeah, firstly, I arrived to Kazakhstan 7-8 years ago as a G2G cooperation business entity between Korean government, Korean Ministry of Health and Kazakh Ministry of Health. So I was mainly working on, first of all, the national health insurance system of Kazakhstan, and the second was training and education through the dispatching the medical personnel to Korea. At the time, I personally felt like most of doctors too much trust for most of doctors in Kazakhstan too much trust of their capability to treat patients by themselves, comparing that most of Korean medical doctors prefer to treat together at the same time. We say multidisciplinary treatment system. It means in here, usually the surgeon, very popular surgeon, decide how to treat a patient by themselves, by their own knowledge, and based on their own knowledge and clinical protocol, how they learned during like 1980s or 1990s. But in South Korea, at least as I experienced, at least 3, 4, 5 medical doctors decide how to treat this patient exactly. So it takes more time to diagnose and to decide how to treat the patient, but it shows like a good performance of treatment of the patient. So at the time, it was really, I can say like it was really tough environment to make the Kazakh doctors understand, the why we need this multidisciplinary treatment system in here. But nowadays, as we experience in Almaty city through the MPK clinic, which we established by ourselves, recently our doctors started to discuss about the treatment method, how to properly treat the specific patients. This is number one. I mean, before, the multidisciplinary treatment system was not in here when I arrived in here 7 to 8 years ago. But nowadays, at UMC, University Medical Center, based in Nur-Sultan, and most of presidential hospitals also encourage to treat one patient through 4 or 5 specialized doctors at the same time. The second was absolutely the Kazakh government recently adopted national health insurance system, as you know, right? So your parents exactly will know. Yeah, that it is. National health insurance system is mandatory to encourage like a health financing, to circulate the health financing between the government side and each the working level of hospitals in here. So it is big differences as an environment? Yeah.
Мына жаңағы інім дұрыс түсінді. Біріншіден жаңағы Памбом келіннің айтып отырғаны, бізде бірінші келгенде осыдан 7-8 жыл бұрын бастадық қой. Ол мемлекетаралық қатынас жөнінде бастады. Кореяның медицинский холдинги деген бар, Korean Medical Holdings. Сонда менеджмент тим болып жұмыс істеп жүрді. Олар мен университетте істедім. Сол кезде біз танысқанбыз. Сол кезде айтқаны, ана дәрігер, Қазақстан дәрігері, өзіне көп, мысалы, өзі шешім қабылдайды, бір адам, өзіне тым қатты сенеді. Дәрігер, мысалы, ол тым қатты сенген, мысалы, өз басы бірнеше дәрі жазып тастайды, тағы басқа. Мына әріптестермен ақылдасу, болмаса әсіресе бұл хирургиялық салада қатты қажет қой. Сол хирургиялық салада өзі шешіп тастайды да өзіне. Кореяда 4-5 маман, 4-5 түрлі маман, олар бірігіп шешім қабылдайды. Осыны мен о баста солай мен сезгенмін. Қазір енді өзгерістер мен көріп жатырмын, ол жағынан жақсы өзгерістер бар. Екінші нәрсе ол жаңағы медицинское страхование дейді. Медицинское страхование ұлттық деңгейде ол қазір енді, сол енді ол жағынан жақсы болашақта нәтиже болады деп ойлаймын. Жақсы, келесі сұрақ, next question.
Hello, my name is Mahabad, and I want to first of all say thank you for giving us so significant and essential information. And my question is, what similarities have you noticed in medicine in Korea and Kazakhstan? What similarities have you noticed in medicine in Korea and Kazakhstan? Maybe similar problems or etc.
First of all, how old are you?
I'm 16.
16. So you know the reality, how the adults think about it, right? First of all, the similarity between two countries are that the hospitals see the patient as a money in both countries. So because of this reason, the medical doctors in hospital usually describe too much the medicines to patient. This is the common problem, social problem in South Korea. And we also think about Kazakhstan has some, capitalism-based phenomena, right?
About patients.
Қазір сен 16-дасың. Енді мынау үлкендер қалай жаңағы енді сұрақ қойып отырсың ғой, қандай жақындығы бар Корея мен Қазақстанның медицина саласындағы. Жаңағы Памбом келіннің айтып отырғаны, саған реалити керек па дейді, реальность керек па дейді. Больницалар ауруға ақша көргендей көреді дейді ауруларды дейді. Бізде Кореяда дейді. Қазақстанда да дәл солай келе жатыр дейді, капитализм дейді. Осы дейді реальность.
Thank you.
Бұл жерде қазір әңгіме өте откровенный, ашық әңгіме. Сондықтан сұрақтарыңды қойып, не қылыңыздар, сіздерге қызық болады деп ойлаймын. Бұл өте керек, қажет өмірліктеріңізге.
Good afternoon, dear guests. It's very happy to see such prestigious personalities in our hall, because these are the students who represent different parts of Kazakhstan, and probably majority of them are going to be preparing themselves to become engineers in biomedicine or doctors, as you represent this aspect of professionalism. And my question is, how do you support artificial intelligence that is broadly implemented in different aspects of our life, and particularly in medicine?
Most of all, I'm usually very negative side for all the issues. So let me emphasize the negative aspect of the AI in South Korea first. Recently, Doctors Association in South Korea strictly banned and strictly against to AI adoption into the hospital operating system. The reason was, the Da Vinci, right? Da Vinci. Da Vinci is the name of
Робот да Винчи, хирургия,
most of tertiary hospital, university level hospital adopted Da Vinci program inside the hospital, but nowadays in 2-3 years, they all against the efficient function of Da Vinci program. It means the more technology, including AI, increase the technology level in modern days, the more medical doctors are needed. The more medical doctors are needed to control, to manage the system by their hands, by their brain, by their eyes. So, according to Dr. Min, who is from South Korea, from Seoul National University Hospital, and who is our chief medical officer, he always mentioned the first step has to be happen by medical doctors, I mean the human being first. The second is we get medical doctors get the second opinion. They just use the AI system to get the second opinion from automatic analysis programs. So this is one of the phenomena in Korea. I'm not sure about the situation in Kazakhstan yet.
I also firmly believe that physical contact of a patient with a doctor is the main aspect in treatment. However, the AI devices cannot exchange and support you at the same level as people do. Thank you.
In the same perspective, the medical service is not just technology providing. Medical service is like eye contact based, emotional based, intercommunication between medical doctors and patient side. So, have you seen a Korean medical drama, hospital? What is the title?
Serial or?
Yeah, serial. So if you watch medical drama, медицинский drama from Korea, they emphasize more the emotional access into patient
in the process of healing,
to give the trust to patient and parents of the patient or the families of patients. So AI is just technologies like supporting tools, supporting skills. So the main character who use the technology is human beings. So please learn literature instead of concentrating into the technology and philosophies and history, and then especially for human beings. Yeah.
Let me interpret that and duplicate the essence of what you have just said.
Good afternoon, dear guests. I'm a guest too. So, my question is, we all know the tendency where we sit hunched over, and this all affects our health, and it's relevant for students, for NAS students. We spend 10 to 12 hours in sitting position, and what are maybe some life hacks or something to add to our schedule to be more healthy in adult times. I don't know how to say it. How to live to be healthy when we grow up, when we're like 30, 40.
Yeah, actually among us, only Dr. Professor Галымжан Тогизбаев is medical doctor, so let's get an answer from him.
This is for my answer. Actually, of course, it's too much stressful environment for you during an school. Yeah, I'm 100% agree with this. Yeah. The secondly, of course, you have to care the physical activity. That's the physical activity is the most important things. Yeah, for your health. And it has to be balanced between the two. Everything has to be balanced. Balance between the physical activity, balance between the educational, stressful environment. And the balance is the best, answer. And it's not like too much, you have to be concentrated. It's too much, because even for the education things, yeah, you have to have a balance. That's my answer. Please.
Another question.
Please.
What do you mean by balance, and what's the average?
Balance, it means that it's you will feel it. I mean, how you feel. If you feel too much, that it means too much. If you feel comfortable, you are comfortable. Balance is your comfortable condition.
And the last question: is it okay to sleep 5 to 6 hours a day?
You please, Pangongchi, about the hours in Vietnam or where, East Asian countries. How many hours are they sleep?
How many hours do you sleep?
No, not me, not we. I mean the students, the school students.
8 hours?
No. The East Asian, some of the East Asian, yes.
Students. During my high school student, I think I got into like a pretty good university at the time, but to get into the university, I slept like 2-3 hours for 3 years. And Korean students like a slave of learning knowledge, the slave of mathematics and physics, English, grammar, and the Korean languages, also even the social sciences. So at the time we had, in total, we had 16 subjects to get the highest score to get into the university. So I'm not kidding. I studied over 16 to 70 hours for 2 years. So this is why as you see, I'm fat. I'm not healthy or handsome. Yeah, I'm always sick. So please do not live like that. Study is not everything. Study is not everything. Knowledge is not everything. I believe, frankly speaking, the goal when I was a high school student, the goal was get into Seoul National University, get into like a Yonsei and Korea University. It was my goal, and it was everything in my life. But after graduation, the grade scores are nothing. So we don't judge people based on the scores, points. This is kind of like a side issues to understand people. Instead, let me explain, the exact the case. Before, the Samsung Electronics, like, and LG, Hyundai, Kia, these big 4, big 5 major companies just got the applications from Seoul National University, Korea University, Yonsei University. So they just got like they just offer the application from the top three major universities before. But what about the result? Or the management extremely disappointed for the freshmen's capability to solve the problem. But instead, including the broadcasting companies in Korea and advertising companies from global industry. They all ignore the title of the university. They don't see the title of the university. Instead, they start to have direct interviews with the undergraduate students. And the result was really interesting. Top three university composition of top three university students composed only 10% of Hyundai. Nowadays, over 50% of undergraduate, they came from like the province-based universities or even college, 2-3 years of college. So it means like study is definitely not every day to adopt to hire people when you grow up. So instead of like 13-14 hours of studies, I strongly recommend you listen pop music. You waste your time to see the sky, or you have like a camping with your friends and discussing about the future together. And sometimes smoking and drinking is also recommended for your mental disease. So the thing I'm trying to say is, please do not waste your time to be an elite or to be the top university student. So nobody judge you under the title of the university. When you get into the King's College of London, Harvard University, or Yale University, Tokyo, Hong Kong University, nobody cares. Nobody cares who you are. They judge you based on your characteristics, your emotional, the fulfillment first. So this is really negative for your teachers, but I know, but yeah, it's true. It's true. Beyond the school, beyond the universities, you will find thousands of people who didn't finish the university, but still get really awesome performance in business sectors. So as a result, I strongly recommend you don't sit over 11, 12, 13 hours on the seat. So please come down to concentrate on the mathematics and physics and biology, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much.
appreciate. Please translate.